Okay, well, this one here is a whole faced surface. This is the reason why I want to check that, because this one here is all gouged in. And they had a little bit of a problem. I don't know why that one is gouged in exactly. I do know that they were running with a piece of plastic in there for the clearance on that one. I had also been told that when this was being reworked, because previous to this, they had turned these diameters here to fit new bearing boxes, which the original is way out here. It's been turned down a little bit, and anyway, that surface is going to need a plate put on it to build it up to at least match the other three surfaces. Now, I checked, and they're all, the other three are about the same thickness out from the wheel. So if I build that one up so it matches, it'll have the same clearance as this one here. And why I was doing what I was doing here just a minute ago before I got Bert to look at this was checking the hardness on this with our little portable hardness tester. And if we check this with the hardness L, which is Lieb, and that's the native thing that this checks in. And normally I don't use the Lieb scale because it's for softer stuff. But it came up with a 475 Lieb, which when I looked and checked that out at 572, a little higher than this, is where the B scale starts on the Rockwell. So that's soft, that's really soft. Whether it's just an ultra soft steel that's cast in the middle or cast iron, it's probably cast iron. I don't know. We would know as soon as we got to turning that, but I wanted to know in advance because I'm putting together some bid numbers for the work. Like I say, so far we've been looking at this and not charging anything. I probably will go personally to the meeting this Thursday with the Friends of the Tanana Valley Railroad and talk with them. But I wanted to put this out there so that they had something to look at of what I found with parts and pieces. And what we plan on doing is, like these ones here, there's a little bit of the brass from the bearing box that's in there. We'll just polish those. We'll keep this as simple as we can. The clearance, well, we'll get back to the clearance in a minute here. This one here, we will turn it down and we'll make a new box. And the new box, I would like to use, well, these are the boxes that were produced for replacement on this. People don't seem to remember who did what on the program, but it was people not here in state, although part of it was. The final machining for this bearing pocket was done by John Holmgren at John's Machine Shop. Was around the corner, not taking much work. He's still making Cypri augers. So if you see Cypri augers, they're sold all over the world, and he's still doing that. But anyway, and he did that as volunteer, nice to finish it out for him. But the way this went, they had the box made, which the box itself is a cast iron, and then for some reason it came without a bearing, and they sent it to somebody else. And the people I've talked to that were in charge of that at the time don't seem to know who they sent it to, but they sent it to someone else. And they were supposed to have bearing made. Well, what they told them anyway was they'd pour it. They told them they would pour. And it's pretty obvious that what somebody did was they took a torch and they just built this up with brazing, which is adequate, obviously. It's worked for 20 years. I have no interest in changing it. Let's go in the other room again for a second here. Because which we hadn't been in this one, so it's not in the other room. It's back in the room we weren't in yet. And that's because I have in here, previous to the making it go again, repairing things of the engine number one, they had some of the old parts around. This was the original bearing box. This was one of the oldest ones, and they had one like this and one like this, two different styles. Actually, I think there was two like this and two like this, but I don't remember. I just took one of each. And the thing is, this is basically what they did with the replacement one they made is one piece. The older one was in three pieces, but there's a couple of differences. One of them, if you notice, this bearing is really thick for a lot of wear. Well, this one here is the same way. It's got a lot of wear availability. And I was just measuring everything, measuring the differences one to another to see what was going on. This bearing is a different height than this one. Now, what I figure I will do for the replacement is duplicate this, which is close to what they've got there, except where they built it up, they just built up bronze just one thickness all the way around. They didn't have this extra thick eccentric where the outside and the inside are at two different centers so that it makes it thicker in the wear area. So I'm planning on duplicating what this is for the new one that we would build, just it's better. I wouldn't go and replace. I'm not planning on replacing the other ones. I think it's too much bother. It's ran for close to 25 years, you know, each summer, just the way it was. So I don't see that. But part of what was really interesting with measuring all of these too, and we could show it here as well as with the other one, thin side, thick side. So when those axles had gotten reworked last time and they turned them down, they had faced the thrust surfaces. I don't know if they faced three surfaces and the one of them was so bad they just didn't face it, or whether they faced all four and something happened to the fourth one to tear it up. I don't think so, because they sounded like that was something that they had right after they put it together. But whoever did face them made them consistent on the ones that were faceable. And as it turns out, that spacing there is just about right if you take this and you turn it around. I don't think the engineers really wrote that down anywhere, but this side is 1/8 of an inch thinner than this side. And so when you get some wear on the wheels, the way they had originally meant this, obviously, is that you turn the bearing around side for side, so the thicker side goes against the wheels. So with those being surfaced, the third one being surfaced, a new plate on the other one, with the four boxes turned around with the thicker sides out, should be pretty good. That should give you about pretty close to 100 thousandths total clearance, which there's suspension movement and everything. You don't want it real close. You know, I don't know if that's the best number or not, but obviously it's tighter than what you were running before with the thin sides out, and it worked. So we duplicate that on the one other axle that wasn't working, turn them both around to tighten it up. And if for some reason turning them around is a little too tight, just turn one of the bearings back around. So then you only have the extra thickness on one side. The fact that the rear of the locomotive, the center of it, is off 1/16 of an inch isn't really going to hurt anybody other than somebody's feelings if they were viewing from a microscope afar. Anyway, so that's the bearing boxes. We've got also, while we're here, might as well go into these. We've got the bolts. These ones here were considered okay. The tapers on these are a real nightmare. And so what I'm suggesting, first off, while it was requested for me to redo all of these bolts, make new ones, they're all different. They're not even close to the same. The taper is different. They're not even the same taper and just different sizes. They are all different. These would be a nightmare to make, and I doubt that they fit the hole perfectly. I imagine they are numbered. I imagine they fit the hole close, but before it would be worth it to make new ones, it would really be good to clean up the hole. And again, it's more work that you don't really need done at this point. So what I'm suggesting for these ones, unless we really have a reason otherwise, is we'll pick out, we'll give these back to you, And whichever ones actually are too far gone, I don't know, this may just catch part of a nut, maybe that is too far gone, we'll weld the threads up and put new threads on them. But leave the same pins, leave the tapers without having to change what that's all about. And, oh yeah, and then the wheels. Back on the wheels again. Pretty much all the other little details back there, I picked them up and looked at them, and there's a little bit of wear here, a little bit of wear there, lots of wear some other places, but again, it's been working for 25 years. You know, things that there's no complaints about. I don't think we want to mess with. We will tentatively straighten out the wheels. This one here is actually pretty good. I think the other one was the one that had a little more grooving in it, for whatever reason, one more than the other. We'll get the taper, and we will we'll probably knock this down just a little bit at the same time, because Park's having problems with some clearance on a bolt there. And I'll get a gauge made up to where I know we're going to clear that bolt without problems. And well, for other people too, though, because this is going out for everybody, not just let's grab a couple other pieces, which the guys at the Railroad Museum know what these are. I got some of those in the shop. Okay, let's just grab this one here. And actually right here is good. This goes on the frame, and then there's a wedge on the frame where this adjusts so that it will grab the box, and that's supposed to be a relatively tight bearing fit there. Like I say, it's been working. So anyway, so you adjust this, and I think this comes up from the bottom. You adjust it with the wedge, hold it, and that gets it to the right place so that it just holds that in. And relatively simple. The other thing is also we got to look at all of this. So again, the guys at the railroad, they understand. This is actually setting up like this on top of the bearings. It's actually not, it's easy to look at it the other way around, but the axle is underneath here, and this is actually supporting the locomotive, and you have springs that go up here to for your suspension, for moving this, for actually holding the weight. It has a oil hole that comes here, goes down through a groove to distribute out the oil, and the idea is also some of that oil would go out here on the side surfaces. Pretty basic. There's a lock that goes underneath. That was the other thing, which I had in the office, but it's we'll go. It locks into these two slots, and we'll go ahead and go into the office because those ones over there are bagged up anyway. It is a packing cellar, along with being a retainer. It's also a packing cellar. So they put packing in here so that it absorbs oil and will wick it back on the bottom of the shaft all the time, besides what drips on the top. And then that turns around there and nut locks down to hold it in place. And they're going to need some, this one is a square bolt. The other one had a nut. There's a few things here where they're needing these thick nuts, but you can buy those from McMaster-Carr. You just order them from McMaster-Carr. They have them all different thicknesses, and that just makes life easy. So not really all that much. It'll take a little bit of time, but and since that plate is soft, I originally was filling out the bid with the idea of putting bronze on the sides, because that's what most trained people say to replace it with, but I don't see any reason why we don't just replace it with mild steel. It's running on cast iron on the bearing box. No reason for it to be two soft surfaces, and mild steel is cheap, so I'll put a little bit lower price on that than what I had before. And that's it.